Wants to throw it to Sewell. He caught it. He stole the first down. Oh, yes. The big man dives down the 31-yard line. Oh, that is beautiful. Fields looking, pressured, hit from behind, take it down. Aiden Hutchinson got him.
No respect.
So, we look like we're ready. This is day one.
No respect.
All right, people. Welcome to Rocktown Detroit Lions post-game show. Lions at Bears. What a day. What a day. Do me a favor. We had some issues last time. Let me know that you can see and hear me. Looks like we're on. So, right off the get, man, this is a tough day for the Lions. Not a lot went right. But what I will tell you right up front here is there was a much bigger difference up front without a Lee McNeil. And I don't know if this was a scheme thing that AG changed to. I mean, I guess I could say there was at moments, because a lot of things that I spoke to in the pregame show spoke to the Lions doing more of the 5-4 front and bringing more heavy DB packages in, kind of stuff the line of scrimmage so that they could stop Fields from running. But Lions couldn't do that today. And I don't know that Fields' legs was, a big driver for the win today. I think this was a lot of self-implosion by the Lions. And I see that Will Akers, such an embarrassing second half. I almost broke my TV. It was, man. It was terrible. They played pretty good in the first half. I mean, there's some issues there, but let me just read a few notes that I took down to get this show started. If you guys missed the halftime show, I probably won't review much of the first halftime show stuff, but so first half, Bears got 3 points off of 2 penalties, both by Anzalone, costing the Lions 20 yards in penalties, which got them into field goal range. And, the Lions, like I was just saying, they played a better first half compared to the second. But with regard to the deep passes and the deep gashes by Fields' legs, there's still a major problem on this defense. And I think that we can all be rest assured that this defense is not going to get fixed. We just need to forget about it. Absolutely need to forget about it. And just hope that not having another outdoor game this season in cold weather is a blessing. Doesn't mean that these games are going to get any easier. But last season, they played great in Green Bay, which was the worst game they've played outdoors in a long time as far as weather. Today, they got lucky. The rain, the snow, it all held up. Got it here where I'm at in Grand Rapids, but nothing in Chicago. So it was just a little cold, a little windy, and down to like 24 degrees with wind chill. So it wasn't overly terrible today as far as weather is concerned. So I thought, all right, they got a better chance today. But again, in the second half, they started out flat. This vanilla offensive scheme, I don't know why they changed it from first half to second half. The offense, leads to three and outs, 3 straight possessions, 3 and outs to start the second half again. And then on the fourth one, they fumble it. They go 2 plays, fumble it. Glasgow fumbles the snap. How do you fumble your own snap? Now, look, Glasgow has played an amazingly good season with what he's had to deal with. Playing 3 different positions and filling in at center. He's been almost flawless. He's done an excellent job. And I'll get to the chat here in just a second. But this stuff just can't happen, right? I mean, whatever Ben Johnson is doing, it needs to stop. Dan Campbell needs to start calling the plays in the third quarter if Ben Johnson can't figure it out. And I'm going to make this statement that I don't know if everybody realizes this, but Dan Campbell called the offensive plays last season till about week 10. Ben Johnson did not get full control of the offense until right around that time. What does that tell you? It tells me that Dan Campbell knows how to call an offense. The highest scoring offense in the league for like the first 5 weeks. And he gave it up to Ben Johnson. So maybe Dan needs to take over some play calling in the third quarter and maybe just do it for the rest of the regular season, just a couple of games here. Maybe Ben needs to be shown a few things. And if Dan doesn't do it, then maybe Ben's not going to pick up on something that Dan's seeing that Ben's not. But you would think that they would be in each other's ear. The thing is, you don't have a ton of time to talk in between plays. You don't have a ton of time to communicate. I mean, it's bang, 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 bang. So I think that Dan Campbell needs to get more involved again. And I don't know about his defensive prowess as far as calling a defensive game. But there was some things today that intrigued me on the defense. And then, of course, there is the same old Jerry Jacobs. So the second Bears drive in the second half, another pass interference call by Jerry Jacobs. Gives the Bears a first down off of a first down. Even though it was only a 4-yard penalty, again, it puts... and that's really not the point, right? I mean, it keeps happening. This has to be like the 10th pass interference call on Jerry Jacobs. I know he had 8 at one point. But it can't keep happening. On the Bears' third drive of the second half, the Lions stopped the Bears, had them in a 3rd and 13, which, again, this appeared to be a fumble by Fields. Now, again, I'm going to refer to the tape. I'm going to have to review the tape tomorrow. It's not going to be available today. But when a pass is affected by a hit, they call it a fumble, not an incomplete pass. In all the years that I've been watching football, and maybe I'm just totally reading the room wrong. Maybe I'm missing something here, but I'm pretty sure that looked like a fumble to me. Would it have been a fumble if it was Jared Goff? I guess we'll never know. Looked like a homer call. But again, let me review the tape before I can fully make that call, right? Bears keep the ball, and then they get a deep strike to Moore, 38 yards in a TD. How do you stop a defense, or how do you stop an offense? Get them to 3rd and 13, and then let up a 38-yard play. It's been the history with this team this season. Deep passes and deep gashes by running quarterbacks. Lions get the ball and fumble, giving the Bears their 4th drive. Lions defense is a mess. Sutton gets beat for a 16-yarder. Then Field scrambles off the edge of Hutchinson for a TD. Now, again, this is based on what I watched. I rewound it a few times. Hutchinson once again got way out of position. Way out. He was inside the offensive line, wasn't doubled. He wasn't actually held on this play either. He just moved down the offensive line where, I mean, if he's on the left side of the defense facing Fields, right, the left side, he was probably on the right defensive end's position before he decided to turn tail and run the other direction to try to catch Fields. He left a 30-yard hole. Wide open hole for Fields to say, holy cow, I got all day. See ya. I'm gone to the end zone. And the reason why I'm saying this is because it happens all the time with Hutchinson. All the time. He gets out of position. He gets too deep on the quarterback. Spin move, out of the play. I don't get it. Well, how is it so hard to contain your end? There's literally a little box that you draw and you say, this is your zone. Stay here. If it's a broken play, that's one thing, but stay here. You know what I'm saying? Hey, thanks for the super chat there. You can't tell them this OC and head coach are not trash. NPNY 1970. Appreciate it, my man. Give you the hearts there. I'm not real familiar with all these super chat stuff. I don't know how it all works, but I appreciate it. I'm not bashing on Hutch. It's just, this is the one area of his game that if he just cleaned it up, he would be unstoppable. He really would. And I feel like the NFL realizes this, and that's why they're allowing him to get held, because he literally could be unstoppable. But he just has to get above it, man. He has to rise above it, get beyond these stupid rookie mistakes, and get better. The rest of the game is pretty much a wrap after this point. And no, I don't care about Goff's second interception. I really didn't even care about the first one. And I'll explain why. The first one, I mean, if you punt the ball, right, and it goes into the end zone, you change the field by 20 yards, maybe. So doesn't make sense to punt. If you take a shot at it and try to get a first down, maybe you keep going. But the way that the pressure was on Goff, he really didn't have a choice. And for some reason, Laporta, Goff threw the ball to where Laporta probably should have been, but Laporta kept going to the outside. And above Laporta, and I'll have to go back and look at the tape, but I swear J-Mo was wide open heading towards the end zone. And when I say wide, I mean probably 3, 4, or 5 yards difference between him and a DB, which is still pretty tight on a long ball. Short pass, not so much. Long ball, you can close the gap pretty quick. Goff probably he didn't have what he wanted. But it looked like Laporta didn't stop again on his route, or miscommunication. I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, it's just one of those things where it's better to throw the pass and take a shot. And if you throw the interception, I call those a punt interception, right? Or an interception or a punt throw. It's no different than, just punting the ball and keeping it inside the 20. On the second one, I mean, Goff doesn't have a choice. He's trying to make something happen. But the biggest thing of today, in my opinion, one of the bigger things anyway, after this interception, or the reason why this interception happens, is he's been dealing with his top 2 targets in Laporta and St. Brown dropping balls all day. Dropping balls. So let's talk stats. Let me jump into the chat here first, okay? And thank you all for joining in today. Tough game. Lions are still in this. Mathematically, they're probably still in the first seed opportunity, but they ain't getting it. I hope they turn me out to be a liar. I really do, but I don't think they're going to be able to have a shot at it. I haven't seen the rest of the scores from today. Does anybody know if the Ravens ended up losing to LA? I couldn't believe that game was knotted up going into OT, and then I got busy getting ready for this, so I couldn't see it. But Amateur Bros, ATV says, ugly loss today. I hope it gets better. Hey, it can only go up from today. The Bears, I'm sorry to say this, but they made the right move. And I know somebody else is really upset about this, but the Bears made the right move by getting Montez Sweat. And I don't care that, he was overpaid. Wouldn't you have loved to have Montez Sweat on this team right now? Giving us that extra edge protection? Maybe then Hutchinson wouldn't have to get so out of position, right? Maybe he wouldn't have to feel like he has to do too much. Anzalone last season had to do too much. And that's why he sucked for the first 5 or 6 weeks. It wasn't his fault. He just had too many broken things on the defense that he had to try to make up for. And then you notice when things were working well, he had a beautiful season. Hutchinson probably realizes he has too much to make up for right now. We don't have a whole lot of help in other areas. Not having Irvin today, I get it. I understand it. They're worried about his ankle and didn't want to take a risk on not having him for the bigger games this season or the playoffs. There's a huge, issue with elevations, and then you have to sign him to the roster. So the one thing that the Lions did today is they essentially by adding Nice, the extra offensive lineman, that allowed him to carry 48 into the game today instead of 47. So they did the right things. It just didn't work out in our favor. Will Akers, like I mentioned earlier, says, such an embarrassing second half. I almost broke my TV. And I'll keep moving down here. At least we won't be paying Goff. I'm not so sure on this one, Chris. You know, I feel like Goff 90% of the time is a very good quarterback. And a lot of people say, well, he needs everything perfect to be a great quarterback. Every quarterback needs everything perfect to be a great quarterback. Very, very few have imperfect offensive lines, no run game, no wide receivers, and still find players, to make plays with. It just doesn't happen. If you don't have an offensive line and you are a mobile quarterback, that's one thing. You'll make plays with your legs. If you have an offensive line and you don't have a run game and you rely heavily on the pass, you're going to have a bunch of pass stats. You have a bunch of passing TDs, but you probably won't have a ton of wins because the right team is going to shut it down. Every team strives to have every position perfect. It just doesn't happen. You need a good, mix of talented players. Goff's under, contract for another season, so they don't have to pay him. But I don't see Goff going anywhere once they clean up a few things in this next season. Tom Brady, almost thought that said Tom Brady. Hutch can even tackle good. Is that can or can't? Yeah, he missed some tackles today, wide open tackles. And I don't get that. I mean, it was a Foreman squirted right underneath his armpit. Baltimore did win today. Thanks, Lauren, for following up on that. Well, that sucks, man. That would have been another opportunity for LA. League is on to Ben Johnson. I've been saying this too, Justin. I feel like Ben isn't, doing the right things at the right time. Like, he calls a great game and then he switches it to something else. It can't be all of a sudden the defense has got you figured out. But something is happening from first half to second half. First half, we usually get out the gate, score a bunch of points, rack up a bunch of yards, stats are flowing. Second half, flat. Fourth quarter, light up the scoreboard. And like Dan Campbell said today after the game, that he would rather be a first half and fourth quarter team than a third quarter team. And I tend to agree with that, only if you're up in the first half. If you are not up in the first half, then you're in trouble. One thing I will say, and I've been saying it all season, ever since we started having these issues in the third quarter, teams do not care about our offense to start the second half. The Bears took the ball today because they know we suck in the third quarter. They are now betting and gambling against our offense to come out and shit the bed. And it's happening. Game in and game out. We've had one game, I think, this whole season where we actually came out and scored a touchdown on our first possession in the third quarter. And that might have been the Packers game. And how well did that go for us? We lost that game too. Myers Farm asked what happened to our run game. We didn't do so bad today. And I guess I forgot to roll into the stats. So here we go. Jared Goff, 20 of 35, 161 yards, 1 TD, 2 interceptions, sacked 4 times. Again, the Bears thrashed our offensive line. Taylor Decker got beat all day long, it seemed like. And there was some things that I had said in the beginning, and I'm going to roll back to what I put in the first half. There's some good tidbits in there that I took. Detroit rushing game, we didn't do so bad. 140 yards on the ground. Jahmyr Gibbs, 11 for 66. David Montgomery, 10 of 66. Jahmyr got the only TD. Jamison Williams had 1 for 4. Porta had 1 for 4. Jared Goff, 1 for nothing. Long of 36 by Jahmyr Gibbs. And like I said in the pregame show, I wanted to see them start with Gibbs running the outside zone with Goff in the shotgun. And it worked. As soon as they took Monty out and put Gibbs in, he gashed us for 36 yards. Got us set up. Why did they go away from it? Now, Monty did make some good plays in the second half, but it wasn't as elusive as Gibbs. Like Gibbs, whenever he touches the ball now, it's like you hold your breath. He might be going to the house. So I'm glad to see that, they did a few things differently. Here we go. Here's that message. NPNY 1970. Again, thank you for the $1.99 super chat. I appreciate it, my man. Can't tell me this offensive coordinator and head coach are not trash. I'm glad you sent in the chat. I don't know if I can agree. I don't think that they're trash. I think bad game. Trash today, I 100% agree with, because they had a bad game. In the passing game, just a weird day today. Josh Reynolds, leading receiver, 3 receptions, 44 yards, 1 TD on 4 targets. Sam Laporta had a light day, two receptions, 23 yards, but 6 targets. So he either dropped or missed 4 balls. And I know that he definitely missed 3 of them. Or, Goff didn't get the ball to him, whatever you want to call it, because one of them was an interception. Amon-Ra, this is a scary one. 3 for 21, 9 targets. What happened to the other 6 balls? Like, St. Brown is usually 7 of 8, 8 of 8, 9 of 10, 6 of 8. Same with Laporta. I mean, those guys are usually 85, 90, 95% catch percentage almost every game. The only thing that I'll tell you that I see on this stat sheet is the Lions got 9 guys involved in the game except for J-Mo. J-Mo was 0 of 0 of 1. No receptions, no yards, 1 target. This is a game that I expected to see J-Mo get involved, with more of the end around stuff, the trickery. Didn't happen. All right, let me go back to the chat. All right, Lauren, good to see you. When receivers weren't dropping balls, Goff was missing receivers. Stats reflect it. They do. But I don't know if they're all, bad passes as opposed to pressure passes. And there's a difference there. I'm not going to make excuses for Jared Goff today. He has some blame on this game. But at the same time, the offensive line has to keep him protected. I mean, we know what we have in Goff. He is not going to get out and run, away from pressure. But there was a couple of times there where he just has to know the pressure is coming. He almost got killed today a few times holding the ball. And I know he has all the confidence in the world in his offensive line, but there was a time there where it's like, all right, dude, you got to get up. And what did I say? Up tempo on the pregame. Get into the up tempo and get the Bears on their heels. They didn't even do it once today, outside of, maybe the last series, but I don't even know if I really would call that up tempo. If the up tempo worked in the previous game against the Bears, why didn't you come out in the third quarter and bang it away with up tempo and get them trapped on the field with the defense that you wanted on the field that your offense could attack? There's 70 different, formations that these Lions offense can use with Gibbs, St. Brown, Laporta, Brock Wright. You put those guys in, you got guys that can catch the ball, guys that can block, guys that can run. You throw J-Mo into the mix, now you've got somebody that has speed, like legit speed. And here's another thing that I'm going to say. You guys all saw the hitch plays today, right? How many times have you seen the hitch plays work? I think I've seen 2 now. And when I say work, hitch plays, you're in a bunch formation out to the right or to the left, whether it's, 2 guys blocking and 1 guy that's going to catch the ball. They put Sewell out to the left today as a blocker. Who doesn't know what's coming next? Because that they're not passing it to Sewell. We start getting cute with the ball when we shouldn't be. And they threw the hitch play and it went nowhere. But the one time they threw it with Gibbs in motion out of the backfield, if he didn't drop that ball, that passes to the house. But like I said in the pregame, if you want to use the hitch, based on what I've seen all season, it's just my observation, put the guy in motion. If you put J-Mo out to the right, Goff's a right-handed quarterback, so you always want to throw to your right. You shouldn't be throwing a hitch to your left. I mean, you could also turn and fire to your left probably quicker than your right, honestly. because it's a wider turn to your right as opposed to just a jump step to your left. So let's say to the left. Now that I thought about it, if Jamo's coming in motion, if you got two guys closer to the line of scrimmage, or I'm sorry, to the end, right, the tight end or offensive tackle, and you got Jamo out wide, and he's running towards Jared Goff, and you snap the ball and you hit him in motion, his wheels are already going. He could either take the ball all the way around the end, or he could go follow up right behind his blockers. That ball will go to the house. All right. Southwest Line 16, Mr. Consistent, always up in the chat. How you doing today? Question says, Will, Ben Johnson, should he be under more scrutiny? Too many possessions by the Lions with no points. Shut out in the second half. Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so. And I don't know if you were in the beginning, but Dan Campbell kind of gave up the reins on the offensive play calling around week 10 last season. So Ben Johnson has really only had the reins this season, in 7 games roughly of last season. A lot of what we did in the beginning of the season was because of Dan Campbell last year. And I think that people have forgotten that explosive offense that we'd seen was because of our head coach. But because everything was going so terribly on defense, he wanted to replace himself, right? Hand the reins off to Ben and getting more involved in everything that was going on in the game. It was probably his plan from the beginning, go through your first season, see what works. Well, they made some personnel changes. Obviously, some people left. And then the second season, they made some changes. Some people left. So he just kind of integrating himself into the team and figuring out what works. I mean, this is the first time he's really, not really, it's his second time as a head coach, but the first time it was just interim. This time, I feel like he wanted to put himself through a little bit of training so that he could get more familiar with his team and what he wanted to do. And so here he is, putting up the best offense in the league last season on his back. And Ben did a great job with it. But I think we're seeing now the vanilla schemes that we're seeing week in and week out in third quarter, second half. It's got to stop. I'm sick of seeing the Lions. They start hot, they get hot, and then they do a 180 and they go somewhere else with the ball. It just doesn't make any sense. Goff, Mike P says, Goff is a dome QB. I'm not sure by what I saw today that maybe St. Brown may be a dome receiver. Interesting. I don't know. I mean, Goff, you could say he's a fair weather quarterback. And honestly, if your schedule is in a way that you're not playing outside a ton, you can't fault him. I mean, he's pretty much been in a dome his whole career. There's a lot of games that, you're inside just by default to the schedule and the teams that you're going up against. And if you're not getting a lot of practice outside, you're always going to be a little bit rusty. And then against the wind is another one. But we saw him beat the Packers last year and was probably the worst weather game the Lions have played the last 3 years. Outside of Carolina. Carolina was a bad game. But that was a bad defensive game. Let me back up here. There's a couple more good ones in here. Oh my goodness, I can't read that one. Our gameplay needs to change, says Chinere. I can't see that. Chinere Palafos. Sorry if I butchered your name, buddy. Lone Wolf says, why is Ben Johnson not using Jamo? It's a good question. I'm not real sure. Jamo's an outside wide receiver. He played outside all the time, but he played in hot weather. Not a whole lot of northern games. So I don't know. Lauren McQuaig says, our first half was okay. We turned it over in the second half in our end, and it cost us 7. Jacobs got burned for another TD again. We need to play Vildor or Melifonwu more and rotate Jacobs out. So with that, here's what I'm going to say. Last week in the pregame, I said that the Lions would have been much much improved defense this weekend if they would have played more in the 5-4 front, or they could still stick in the 4-3 as long as they brought in more DBs. They didn't do really much of either today, but the times that they did, when I seen 5 guys on the line, you were seeing an extra DB on both sides, right? Up near the line of scrimmage. And the Lions had better success on those plays. Melifanu had a nice stop. Jerry Jacobs is just a liability. I don't care where he is on the field. I don't know where Tracy Walker was today. I don't think I heard his name called once. He's usually up in the box. Brian Branch, didn't see much of him today either. But at the same time, I'll have to go back and look tomorrow at the stats to see who was targeted the most. You know, which one of our DBs. I'm willing to bet Jerry Jacobs is going to be the most targeted guy again, because everybody knows he's a liability. But the point that I'm trying to make here is I would have loved to see the Lions do more of a dime concept or a heavy nickel concept where you've got 6 DBs in, 3 safeties, three cornerbacks. You leave one back in the middle of the field, single high safety. You roll the other 2 safeties behind the 2 cornerbacks. You bring the cornerbacks up in the box. Safeties are free firing to blitz. What happened today when the Lions finally blitzed the linebacker? Germ sacked Fields for like a 7-yard loss. Straight through the middle. It worked. Why did they stop doing it? But those are the plays that I've been asking for weeks now, is to get these guys up in the box. You should have got faster today. I mean, you already know that you're bringing in 2 tanks, Bugs and Martin. And I'll tell you what, they got better push today with Bugs and Martin and Benito Jones up in there. They really did. I thought that they played a much better game up front. It's just the edge seemed to collapse the wrong way. And then we were left wide open over the middle. And then that keeps happening, and I don't get it. But let me move on to some defensive stats here for just a moment. Jack Campbell's our leading tackler with 10, 6 solo. Alex Anzalone played a solid game, although he did get targeted a bit at times. I mean, I didn't realize he had a screw in his hand. And with that screw, he was not able to clinch. He's not able to grab a ball. He's not able to really tackle with it. And he does have a lot of pain with it, from what I understand. And it was wrapped up today. So, yeah, he probably could have played with it last game, but he was having his baby. Everybody knew that. He wasn't going to play. But he didn't play his best game. Even though he had some tackles today, he didn't play his best game. There was a lot of wide open stuff today. And I really don't know what happened at the beginning of the game. Like, they were trying to say that, you know, he hit that Bears receiver out of bounds late. Look, man, he was still in the field of play. Until you touch that white and you're out of bounds, there shouldn't have been a flag there. But he didn't even try to hit him hard. Like, he even tried to catch the guy. Anzalone's not a dirty guy. But, you know, you get Anzalone going, you're going to see a different animal come out. John Kaminsky played a hell of a game. 7 tackles, 3 solo, 1 sack, 1 TFL. Derek Barnes had a pretty good game, 7 total, 2 solo. Kirby Joseph, I felt, had a decent game. Benito Jones got a TFL today. Kendall Vildor, first shot with the Lions, former Bear. 3 tackles, 3 solo, 1 TFL, but he also got burned on 1 play. Cameron Sutton, 3 tackles, 2 solo. Brian Branch, slow day, 3 tackles. So I was expecting to see Brian up at the box more today. Jerry Jacobs, horrible day. Couple of penalties. He got burned multiple times. And only 2 tackles on the day. At the end of the day, Germ was probably one of our best defensive players today from an athletic perspective. But you know who I don't see on here? Yep, Julian Okora. He's got goose eggs all the way across. John Pascal, he only had one combined tackle. Tracy Walker, 1 combined tackle. I mean, when your punter has more tackles than 2 of your edge guys, that's kind of a problem. Unbelievable. All right. Lone Wolf says Barnes was out of position a few times. You can see the cornerbacks pointing at him. I'll have to go back and review the tape on that one. Lauren McQuagg says Anzalone gave a standing shove. That was drama. Yeah, it was drama. Yeah, it's a chippy day. I mean, rivals all day long today. It's a chippy day. David Poole says the Lions know their D is trash. They can't have the offense turning the ball over and not putting up points. Lions will have to hope that Hooker works out. So that's the one thing I'm not going to sell out on just yet. And thank you for the comment, Mr. Poole. I am not going to. Hooker is not playing this season. He's not. And he probably won't play next season. He'll get in spring ball. And, he'll play a lot during training camp. He'll play a lot in preseason. But Hendon Hooker is not the savior of this offense. The offense is not really the issue, and it hasn't been for more than 25 games. The defense has been a consistent problem, ranked in the bottom of the league. Yeah, we had some glory times in the beginning of the season with our defense ranked pretty high. But they're not the problem, meaning the offense. The defense is short personnel-wise. We need another shutdown type corner. And I mean, shutdown term loosely. We just need a very good cover cornerback. We need a very good man-to-man cover cornerback. Someone opposite of Cam Sutton that can come in and not have to start in the number one role his first season. Somebody that can learn under Cam Sutton and everybody else, in the defense and not be kind of, thrown to the fire, so to speak, in season one. And the reason why I say that and why it's so important is when you look at Jeffrey Okudah and what happened to him, there was an exodus from the Matt Patricia era, right? And Jeffrey Okudah was all by himself. He had nobody to learn from. So he enters the league and immediately he's the number one guy with no veterans to really help him along the way. Cornerback is one of the toughest positions to learn in year one. It's one of the hardest positions to play in year one. So with the way that the Lions have gone out and developed this team right now, I would expect that they're going to get a cornerback next year, whether it's free agency or the draft or both. But if they do it in the draft and they get a guy early, a late round, first round cornerback or defensive, end or defensive tackle is what I'm expecting. But even a guy in the second round, or if Brad Holmes trades some 25 capital to move up, earlier into the first round, I would expect that we're going to get a cornerback early. I really wanted Devon Witherspoon this year. He was my call. And if he wasn't going to be available, and like I said, back in April, that we were going to take Jahmyr Gibbs, and we did. But Devon Witherspoon was that guy that I wanted to see on this team. He already had, experience playing with Joseph. And you get guys that have already played together. They know how each other works. I mean, that stuff, it works. I mean, it's real. It's legit to have players that have played together. They thrive off each other. They know each other. And back in the DBs, that's an area of your defense that really thrives on knowing how each other operates, because they can't communicate. It is so loud, and they're 15 yards apart from each other. They can't hear each other. That's why they're doing, all the hand motions and everything else, because they can't hear. So having somebody that you're comfortable with, that how they move and how they operate, really helps. And that's why I really wanted Devon Witherspoon. Not only that, but I called him back in December to be the number one overall DB off the board when he was ranked 10th, the 10th best cornerback. I said he was going to go number one just by watching his tape. And he's proven everybody right. He's had a slow season this season, but he's a damn good player. So I expect the Lions to do something early, but the benefit is they're not going to have to put him in at number one. And I wouldn't. Even if they wanted to, I wouldn't. Let Cam be the number one guy. Let your other guy learn. When Cam's done with his contract, or maybe in year 2, they switch. But that's the beautiful part of having Cam Sutton under contract for 3 seasons. All right. Yes, Will, you were right about a press corner who can learn as we go. Love it, Mike P. Love it. Lauren McQuaig says Jacobs has a 4.53 40 and looks slower. Vildor ran a 4.44. A tenth of a second doesn't sound like much, but over 100 yards, it's a yard in football. It's about a foot or two of separation. It's a game of inches, Lauren. We know that. It's a game of inches. And the things that I really look for when I look at cornerbacks is, one, it's their broad jump. And the broad jump tells you how much explosion you have right off the get, right? And then you got to watch all the little drills, the 3-cone and, the shuttle. But then you also have to look at the 10-yard split. The 10-yard split will tell you, how fast they are quickly, right? So from point A to point B, how fast can they cover? And then, of course, I look at all the backpedaling and the turning to see how fluid their hips are. If they can break from a full backpedal to a turn, left or right, and still stay hip to hip with somebody, well, they're going to get ranked high on the list. And that's what I saw out of Devon Witherspoon. And then I looked at the fact that he wasn't so handsy. I mean, he was at times, but he wasn't as handsy as, the Keely Ringos and the Porters, the Gonzalez, he just wasn't as handsy. So he wasn't going to get a ton of PI calls. We'll see what happens. I still have faith in this team. Bad loss, bad day. I'm not going to, jump all over everybody today. I expected us to lose a game we should win. It happens every year. But now this is 2. We shouldn't have lost to the Seahawks. Well, this is 3. Shouldn't have lost to the Seahawks. We shouldn't have lost to the Packers. We definitely shouldn't have lost to the Bears. Whatever they were doing in the first half today, they should have stuck with, and they got away from it. And that didn't help. So, all right. Let me back up here in the chat. So, just let me ask you guys a question. Are you guys feeling like Lions still have a chance to win out? We got the Cowboys, so we're sitting at 9-4. My initial call to start the season, before the season started, is that we would be 12-5. And then they got out and started playing hot, and I'm like, man, these guys could go 15-2, and they could have, because that last loss should have been against the Cowboys. Even though I really want to beat the Cowboys, I just felt that's always the hardest team in Dallas. And the refs that'll be there, it's always a tough game. But now we're sitting at 9-4. And we got the Vikings twice, we got the Cowboys, and we got the Broncos. I still think we're a 12-5 team. We win the North. We probably end up the 3rd seed. I think that's the worst of the season for us right now. That's why I'm not in panic mode. That's why I'm not worried. Yes, I would love to see the Lions get a couple extra wins that we should have had. Yes, I would love to see the defense playing a lot better. But we still have 4 games. And the Lions have done an excellent job putting themselves in a great position to make this last little run, the last quarter of the season, and hope for the best. They've done an excellent job. We've suffered a ton of injuries. And this is football, man. This is football in December. It's what it's all about. You're either playing your best football or you're not. And so far, we're 1-1 in December. And I hope they get to 4-1 in December. I really do. Chris says, I live in Dallas. I have my tickets to the game. Not excited about it anymore, like I was originally when I got the tickets. But hey, if you want to buy a plane ticket, I'll come down and take your tickets from you. I'm just kidding, man. It'll be a great game. It's always good to go watch your team, win or lose. It's always fun, especially in Dallas. That's one stadium I haven't been to. Lone Wolf says, no, they won't win out. Broncos are no joke. Yeah, the Broncos have come alive. That's just Russell Wilson for you. He may not be, he may not have the wheels that he used to have, but he's still a damn good quarterback. He's an intelligent quarterback. Cowboys are very good in Dallas, and I just don't know if the Lions can sweep the Vikings. I'm very worried. So you guys may or may not remember, but about 5 or 6 weeks ago, whenever Joshua Dobbs was signed by the Vikings and then played in that first game with was it 24-hour notice or something crazy? and won. And I put out a video and I said that something like, are the Lions in trouble, or who is Josh Dobbs, or I don't know what I said, but there's a video somewhere in my YouTube about it. And what I said was legit. He was brought into the Lions organization last year for a reason. He had wheels. He's an intelligent quarterback. He's got a cannon of an arm. He's been relegated to a backup his whole career, partly because he's just been put into bad situations. Bounced around a little bit. But there's always been something about Josh Dobbs. And it's his heart. This kid has a big heart, man. He gives it all on the field. And that's why he ended up a Detroit Lion for 2 weeks. And then he was poached. Teams know that he can play, and he's a very good backup quarterback. And I was so excited when we brought him in, because I'm like, this is perfect. We got somebody for the scout team now, somebody that can emulate, these running quarterbacks. The Lions be able to practice against him now, and they'll get better each week, and then bang, he's gone. Got poached. But there's a reason why I was nervous about Josh Dobbs. It wasn't so much that he was with us for 2 weeks and got to learn our offense. I mean, that's always part of it. But he wasn't here long enough. It's more so that I know the kid can play. And we'll see what happens the rest of the season. I think the Lions can win those 2 games. And it sounded like Jefferson was back today. I think he played today. So I'm just wondering how they did. Looks like Minnesota is just now getting started. Oh, no, wait. They're in the third quarter. 0-0? You've got to be kidding me. There's 12:35 left in the third quarter, and it's 0-0. So it must be a defensive game. So we'll see what happens with a good old Josh Dobbs, but he's not somebody that, we should take lightly. That's the thing. Scott Langan, thanks for your compliment. He says, first time watching. Great job. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate y'all, man. You guys have made this season incredible for us. Doing this for the first time on our own. Did a podcast last year, and it's kind of just a live show type podcast. And this show is going to grow. We're going to be doing, a lot of different things. As many of you guys know, partnered up with Lion Syndicate, Derek Fields, to do the Friday night pregame breakdown. He was gracious enough to fit in some time for us to do these. And hopefully a podcast in the off season. We don't have a name yet. We're working on it, but we want to bring the energy all off season to keep our Lions fans engaged. And probably tomorrow I'm going to release some information. I'll probably post it on the YouTube, but you can also find it on the Rock Down Detroit Lions Facebook page. We are putting together a first annual Lions fans cruise. And I'm going to get it all organized and have the booking agent take care of everything. We're not going to take any of the money or any of the payments. You guys will deal with them on that. So if you want to join us, we're going to open it up to 50 tickets or 50 rooms on a cruise and do something different that's never been done before. So a Lions fan cruise, and we're going to do some podcasts throughout the time that we're on the cruise. Just have fun, get to know fans from all over the world and enjoy it. Talk about the Detroit Lions, have some fun underneath the sun, and just do something different. We want to make it blow up and kind of turn into its own thing every single year and just keep growing it. And before you know it, you're going to have friends, fans from all over that when you want to go to a game, you're going to know some people in that area. And tailgates are only going to get bigger and better. So that's our goal, is to do things different, but for the fans of the Detroit Lions. That's what it's all about. That's what we're both all about, is doing it for the fans. So, sorry, just a little, had to plug that in there. Okay. Eric Myers says, I can't see them beating Minnesota. Not even one game? Not even our home game to end the season? I know I'll be at that game for sure. I won't be at the Broncos game that I know of. So I think that we have an opportunity to beat them both times. When we're going to have to, honestly, if we can't beat the Cowboys. This Broncos game is going to be a big game. Matthew Reneker says, what happened today? We didn't show up. Yeah, they never got off the bus today. They just didn't. They didn't show up at all. And I apologize. I missed a lot of your chats. I don't know if I already said this one, but Mike P says, you're right about getting a press corner and learn as we go. I think I already said that one. And here's a good one by Southwest Line. It says, why didn't we have Nowaski playing today? I don't understand. They need all the speed they can get. You know, Nowaski's a lot like a Jack Campbell type of speed and player. I see a lot in him. Between the two, they're very similar in how they play. They both remind me of a Chris Spielman, to be honest with you. But today, I think, was all about making sure we had plenty of players at the defensive tackle position. And like I said, by them bringing up the extra offensive linemen, they were able to stretch their game day roster to 48. And they could even have had Hendon Hooker on the sideline today because that third quarterback does not count. I don't know if he was actually on the sideline or not. But what I will tell you is having more players ready on the defensive line, and they brought up extra DBs today. They brought up Vildor, but they also kept down, I think, with Chase Lucas and Stephen Gilmore. That one was a little bit perplexing. Well, I really want to see what Gilmore has. I think it's about time that Jerry Jacobs gets relegated to a number 3. They're going to have to try somebody out quickly. I can't imagine that Chase Lucas, Stephen Gilmore, Kendall Vildor, that none of these guys can beat Jerry Jacobs. Jacobs gets burned so much. Mike P says, I have heard some other podcasts talk about how great JJ is, have no idea they are looking, or have no idea what they are looking at, or they just don't know football. You must be talking about Jerry Jacobs. Look, Jerry, I mean, he's been all over the map. And see, that's the problem, is consistency. If you are not consistent in this league at the corner position, you will get burned. And it's really with any position, right? If you're not a consistent quarterback, you're going to get burned. If you're not a consistent defensive end, you're going to get burned. If you don't play consistent within your scheme, you're going to get burned. And that's what I'm seeing with these guys. I mean, just go watch the tape for yourself. Go back and watch some of these plays. Here's what I do. I will key in on a play that was really bad for the Lions, and I will watch it 12 times in slow motion. And I watch it 12 because I want to watch all 11 guys and see what they did right or what they did wrong from my perspective, from my understanding of football, not Aaron Glenn's, right? And then the 12th time, I really want to key in on the players that really made the play fall apart, if you will. So if it was Jerry Jacobs, I'll probably watch him first and last. But I want to see what everybody else is doing. So I'll watch a play 12 times to figure out what's going on. And I do all that because I love what I do when I do this, and putting together the pregame shows. A lot of that stuff that I write and I talk about, it's not just, me throwing out a bunch of off the cuff opinions. I do put a lot of work into it and watch tape and try to come up with good ideas. And they are just my opinions at the end of the day. But I try to bounce things off you guys and bounce things off everybody, and just put it out there. One, I would love to be right, once in a while. We know in this game, whether you want to call it media or sportscasting or being an analyst, I mean, you see it all day long, whether it's ESPN, Fox Sports, CBS, PFF, I don't care who it is. Hardly anybody gets things right when it comes to the NFL, whether you're calling, how many yards someone's going to get, if someone's going to score a touchdown, how many fantasy points they're going to get, who's going to win, are they going to cover? I mean, there are so many different metrics to this game. It's impossible to get all of them right. It's even more impossible sometimes to even get a few right. And we've done pretty good, and it just comes from putting a lot of work in. Eventually, I won't be able to put all that work in, but it's fun. It's fun right now. I just need a team of people around me to keep going with it. Full Slate Farms says he believes, or she believes, I don't know if it's he or she, the Hooker will not play this year, even if Goff falls flat on his face. I believe that too. This is Goff's season to lose or win. unless he gets injured. He's in it till the end. And let me tell you something about Hooker. And to whoever mentioned, about Goff not being, our Super Bowl quarterback or not being the right guy. I'm a huge Hendon Hooker fan. Huge. I called Hendon Hooker to the Lions in April. If you go back and listen to the podcast prior to the draft and during the draft, I called Hendon Hooker to the Lions. And that was because when I watched Hendon Hooker play before he got injured, number one, this guy was on the way to winning a Heisman. Number two, the way he commanded his offense and what he did on the field was incredible. Number three, I liked his age. Not a lot of people liked his age because he was older. But if you listen to some of the things that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have also said about him after the draft, they loved his age because number one, he was going to sit for a little bit. Number two, he was more mature. And that's what you want in a starting quarterback, and someone that's going to lead your team is someone that's mature. So he has all of that going for him. Number three, the age didn't matter to me because a lot of quarterbacks now are playing into their 40s, or at least they're over 35 and they're still playing. And what you're trying to get out of a quarterback is 2 contracts. So 8 to 9 seasons is all you're really trying to get out of a quarterback. If you draft him as a rookie, you want to keep them through 2 contracts to get them into the prime of their career. And then they're too expensive to keep after that. So you're already looking at a different option. Very rarely do you see teams keeping a quarterback for 3, 4, 5 contracts. I mean, there's only been a few that have done it recently. Tom Brady, I think he stayed with the Patriots for what? 19 seasons, 20 seasons. Aaron Rodgers, I think he was with the Packers for 17 seasons or something like that. Not many quarterbacks in this league stay with the team longer than 4 seasons, let alone 10. So if you get him, get 2 seasons out of Hooker or 2 contracts out of Hooker, he'll be 30. He'll be 33 by the time he's leaving the Lions. That's still a young quarterback in this league that can still make plays when you're not playing all the time. He's literally going to sit for a season or 2 or 3. So he's going to be pretty young and still be very healthy and not take a lot of shots by the time he gets in. Yeah, Lions Den 313. I don't recall seeing one pass to J-Mo. He didn't have a target according to the stats. So he did have the end around, but he did have one. I'm sorry, he had 1 target according to the stats, but he only had the end around for his yards today, which was 4 yards. Let me back up here. Yeah, Mike P says Jerry Jacobs is a 4 at best. Hey, you're not lying, man. He's I think he's on everybody's shit list right now. Eric Myers, does Holmes or the president of the organization have a sit down with the coaching staff? I doubt it. I don't know how Sheila does her things, but quite honestly, I don't think there's necessarily a sit down. I think that they're all involved and they have their team meetings or, corporate meetings. I don't know how often, but I'm sure that there's something they do every single week. At least I'm sure that there's something that they're doing, having conversations about the team. But I don't see Sheila, Mrs. Sheila Hamp. I don't see her getting super involved into how to coach your team and meddling. She hired guys for a reason, and she's expecting them to do their job, and whatever she expects from them, she'll let them know if they're not doing that. But right now, Dan Campbell's done an excellent job. I mean, they've totally turned this franchise around. And as far as Brad Holmes goes, dude's on fire. He's done an excellent job too. Now, he missed out on an opportunity at the trade deadline to bring in some extra guns for this defense. But there's a million ways you could dice that up. There really is. There's a ton of excuses why not, and there's a ton of reasons why he should have. So I guess it's whatever boat you're going to fit in, with that. I could tell you both sides of the coin would be, I get it. They didn't want to bring someone in that could disrupt, the culture. But as you heard me say the other day, we can't have this, and I'm all for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, by the way. But I was making the analogy that we can't have this Walter Payton Man of the Year type of culture in the locker room in place of a gritty, get after it, gut punch it type of team that plays hard. And if you're afraid of bringing somebody in that has that mentality, which I know that this team does, and I know that that's exactly who Dan Campbell is and what he preaches. I mean, heck, he's the one that kind of invented the word grit, and now it's all over the place in the NFL. But I don't want to see the Lions sacrifice for having someone that's maybe just a little bit rough around the edges ruin their culture, because it's doubtful that it's going to happen if your culture is that good already. It's not going to get infected by one person, that may rub you just a little bit wrong. At the end of the day, wins in production erase all of that. If you are on the field and you are winning and you are having production, ain't nobody going to say anything. They're just going to be excited and celebrate together. So I don't see how it could hinder the team. But at the end of the day, Brad Holmes probably should have brought somebody in. We weren't getting the pressure either up the middle or on the right side or the left side, depending on where Hutch was. Hutch is getting pressure. He's not getting home. Hutch is getting pressure, but then he's getting out of alignment. Our DBs are getting torched. So there's a lot that could have been done. And maybe money was a factor, but then again, you can always make room. We were getting down to about $4 million around the trade deadline. There wasn't a whole lot of money to be had. But this next year, he's looking at the bigger picture. I've got a full boat draft picks. I got 2/3. I got $70 million in cap space. I've only got a couple of players that I really need to re-sign. I've already got 40 signed. I'm going to bring in another 7 or 8 guys through the draft. This is going to be another year where I think that the Lions are only going to grab a couple of guys in the offseason because they don't need them. They've already got 40 guys on the roster. And the guys that are free agents, I would say 70% of them aren't coming back. They're not producing. So why bring them back? I think that they're going to keep their core team together, and some of the guys that are backups will stay backups. Those guys would make sense, some of them. So Brad Holmes is going to do a good job for us in the offseason. I'm 100% confident in that. I really am. Let me get to some more of your comments here. Vikings guard is out now too. Who else was out? Lions Den. Someone else get hurt? Maybe I missed a comment. Raiders, Vikings still at 0. Jefferson is out. And Madison is questionable to return. What happened to Jefferson? Did he get hurt again? That's really odd. They took all this time to bring him back for a hamstring injury. Wow. Jared's got to go, just Sam. I don't follow that one, William Panala. Apologize. Eric Myers, I still don't understand the Peoples-Jones deal. I do and I don't. I do from the perspective that it was a great add to this team. And if you think about it, we were really at one injury away from being a disaster with the wide receiver room. I mean, we don't have anybody else. We don't have another big-time threat outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown and thank God, Sam Laporta. Because without either one of those guys, we really struggle. If both of them were to be out, what are we going to do? Because Mitchell hasn't worked out for the other tight end that Brad drafted. He hasn't done anything, and he was supposed to. Former ACL guy, I believe. Josh Reynolds is too up and down. Khalif Raymond is flashy, consistent, but flashy. He has inconsistent days all the time. So for me, we needed somebody else that has shown that he can do it and can be a number one guy. I mean, he had about 860 yards, I think, in 2022. But the Browns, they weren't focusing on the wide receivers. They were focusing on the running game. And this season, he just wasn't involved at all in the offensive plan. For whatever reason, your leading receiver was no longer involved in the plan. So I think that they got him to stick him, as that, how do you put it? the emergency, relief valve, if you will. Like, they know that he has the skill. He has the ability. He's been in the league now a few seasons. He played incredibly at Michigan. The body of work is there. But if he loves the team after this season and he loves the culture, he's someone that might be able to come back next season on a relatively affordable contract. And I would love to have somebody like that on the team, that has the potential to be a number one, but a really good number 2 or 3 that you could put out there with Jameson Williams, because Jameson hasn't taken off yet either. And then there's Antoine Green. I wouldn't have taken a wide receiver in the 7th round. They don't normally work out. I just wouldn't have. But the Lions still need another wide receiver if J-Mo can't get going. They need someone that can come in. I'm not opposed to them bringing in Marvin Harrison, but I am opposed to them selling out everything to go get him. And I'm not going to talk about all the mock draft stuff just yet, but I will be soon. I've been working on some stuff with the mock drafts and watching some tape on guys. This is going to be a fun draft in Detroit. It really is. All right. So we're coming up on the hour and 7 minutes of the show. I have not opened up the lines, but I think I probably should. So if you guys want to call in, hey, where's my thing at? If you guys want to call in, for some reason, my other background's missing. Let's see if it's this one. There it is. All right. So if you guys want to call in, the number's right there on the screen, 313-312-0348. I'd love to take a couple of phone calls if you guys want to vent, if you want to just talk about whatever about the Detroit Lions. The phone line is open. I've got it on. And what happens is when someone calls, you'll see me talking, but you won't hear anything because I'm trying to kind of vet who they are a little bit before I bring them in. So I'll be muted for just a couple of seconds and then I'll bring them in. So 313-312-0348. You don't got to be nervous about it. It's just like talking to your brother or sister, my man. No big deal. We're just going to have a conversation. All of your information, your phone number, all that stuff stays private. I don't spam you with a bunch of text messages or something like that later. So what else y'all want to talk about today? I'm kind of deflated today from this. Just such a poor showing. I really expected more out of them. I really did. And I really like to see, a few things that I had pointed out in the pregame show that were working today when they did it. Let me go back to some of my notes. So right there, the Lions' second drive, like they started off with Monty, wasn't doing much. But in the second drive, they started out with Gibbs. And right away, he gets that break for like 36, 39 yards. And I saw that in the previous game versus the Bears in week 11. Gibbs was the much better running back in that game. And for them to have the ability today to utilize him with some outside zone with Jared Goff in the shotgun. And if you noticed, I expected Jared Goff to be in the shotgun the majority of the day today, and he was probably 75% of the snaps to try to evade pressure. And he was still getting pressure. All right, I do got a call coming in, so I'm going to mute for just a second here. All right, so I have Kevin on the line. Kevin, you're on air with Rockdown Podcast and Rockdown Detroit Lions. What do you want to talk about today?
Oh, man. So it's like a broken record. We talk about it every week, right? Like, what's going on? The defense is bad. Aaron Glenn, he deserves all the blame, right?
Sure.
I guess I look at it. I'm a longtime Lions fan. I've been watching them for 35 years, right? And one thing that I've noticed is like Aaron Glenn's getting a lot of the heat because of the defense, but yet the offense is giving the ball up on the 30, and then expecting the defense to stop them. like, all in all, I didn't think the defense really should take all the blame in this loss and even the last loss because, you know, they're giving them in the short fields, you know, and the other team's got, 25 yards to score, you know, touchdown or whatever. I don't think that Aaron Glenn should get all the heat all the time. I'm only looking at Ben Johnson and this offense. I mean, we got shut out the second half. I mean, like our offense goes stagnant. It's conservative for the most part, right? I mean, when it's going, it's going. It looks good. End arounds are happening. Flea flicker stuff, or whatever, you know, trickery. Our offense clicks and it gets on fire. I mean, it could be best in the NFL. But the offense, I'm calling the offense out. And, you know, Ben Johnson needs to dial it up better. I mean, there's too many playmakers on our offense not to have something happening.
I think you're 100% correct, Kevin. You know, in terms of today's game, the Bears scored a touchdown off of the fumble in I think it was the fourth quarter. So that fumble did turn into 7 points for the Bears. Now, they didn't score any points off of the interceptions today, but I'm sure you're also speaking about the last game we played in all of those turnovers. And I agree with you. Ben Johnson, for whatever reason, is going too vanilla. And
right, 100%.
Like we used what's working, and it's working, and we're scoring, and we're lighting it up, and then you get up into a lead, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, we're having too much fun. Let's just slow it down, go 3 and out the next 4 or 5 times, and give them a chance.
And expect our defense.
Yeah. So that stuff I don't understand either. But the other thing I'll throw at you though is so let's take those 7 points off out of the equation today. If that fumble doesn't happen and those 7 points don't happen, the Lions still give up 21 points to the Bears by the defense. And whenever an offense is able to put up 20 points, you're going to lose the game more times than not. More than 20.
And I get all those, you know, and it just becomes frustrating because when I look at it, it's like our offense is completely shut out. I mean, our defense isn't perfect, right? And I understand that we fall into that, you know, our defense sucks all the time mode, but you know, our offense has been like desolate.
Yeah, I'd say since the Ravens game, something has changed on this team. And it's
100%.
And it's infecting both sides of the ball. At any given moment, it seems like something just, I don't know, it's like the floor falls out and nobody knows what to do. But this vanilla stuff by Ben Johnson, you're right. It's got to stop. He's got to. I'm not saying do flea flickers multiple times a game, but we've got to start utilizing the plays that are actually working. You know,
right?
Like if you see the hitch play doesn't work, why do you keep throwing it? You know, it just doesn't make sense.
Thank you. You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say the same thing, right? Like, what are we doing? And then the 4th and 10. I mean, that's on Dan Campbell. Kick the field goal there. Do something different. Yeah. I'm like, I don't understand why we're going for it. We need 11 yards or that 4th and 2. Why is Goff running back in the backfield 5 or 6 yards, giving the ball off, and then expecting our runner to go 7 yards to get a first down?
That blew
that's
my
a horrible play call. What are we doing? Like
that was a delay counter to the right side, which hold the phone here. You're running to the right side, which is our weak side of the day because we don't have Glasgow in at guard and we don't have Ragnow in at center. Why are you running it to the right anyway?
Right, exactly.
You should have been running it to the left.
I just wanted to throw out, man. I hear all the Aaron Glenn heat, and I get it. But, I mean, it falls on offense and defense. I mean, both sides need to take accountability. And I think with Ben Johnson, he gets a pass a lot of times. But, you know, Ben Johnson's got to hold some accountability on this as well. As well as Dan Campbell. I mean, all 3 coaching phases, they all need to be held accountable, not just one coach. Like everybody's focused on Aaron Glenn, but I never hear anything about Ben Johnson.
Well, you did today. Like, you did today for me a little bit. That it's too vanilla. It's too often.
Oh, I came in late, so I didn't hear the whole beginning of your cast here. But you know, I just want to throw that out there. I'm like, you know, all these coaches need to hold blame. You know, and it's not just Aaron Glenn all the time. And I know that there's holes that we got to fill in and. You know, it's just unfortunate, you know, that Mosley goes down, CJ Garner-Johnson goes down for that period of time, and then we lose Aleem McNeil. I mean, we're losing crucial position points that, you know, in the beginning of the year, you know, we thought, you know, for the most part, we'd have top 5 secondary in the league, right? So,
you would think. I was really excited to see what those guys were going to be able to do. And it's still a potential that we get a Lee McNeil back. There's a couple channels out there that keep saying that Houston and CJ Gardner are coming back, but their timetable hasn't even started yet. And so until that table starts, we don't know if they're going to actually make it back in time.
Yeah.
But before
I would love to see.
Before I do, go ahead. But before I let you go, what is your prediction, I guess, for the rest of the season? And
you know, that's a tough one, man. And I would like to say obviously 4-0, but I mean, if we could get out of this thing 2-2, I mean, I think we'd be fortunate. You know, Denver's playing better. We got to go to Dallas. I mean, that's not going to be easy. And Minnesota's going to want to try to chop our butts. So I'd say 2-2. You know, that's kind of where I'm at right now. They got some things to clean up. On the last thing before I get off the phone here, though, I would love to see CJ Gardner-Johnson come back.
Yeah,
I mean, that energy in the secondary. I mean, that guy just brings it. He's the dog that we need, right? The veteran presence. I mean, I would sign that guy for 3 more years.
Yeah, he's just going to want, you know, $15 million a year, you know, but
you think?
Yeah, well, I don't think next year because he's coming off an injured season. So I think the Lions might catch a break. And, you know, I think they signed him this year for $6.5 million. Now he's been injured yet again. Missed the whole season, really. So he might sign for another $5 or $6 million next year. And then if he plays well, makes it through the whole season, then he's going to probably want a big contract from somebody.
Yeah.
So we might get lucky and get him on another 1-year rental.
I know. I just love his energy, man. He's a dog back there. I love that. I'm like, that's what we need. We need some more dogs in our defense, guys like Sue or what have you. But I'll get off the phone, man. I just wanted to give you a shout out. You know, and I'm a follower of yours, and I appreciate what you do, man. So
well, I appreciate you. Work. You're the one that does all the work. You guys got to tune in and watch it. I really appreciate you guys doing this. So, all right, Kevin.
All good, man.
Go Detroit Lions, man. You take care.
You too, buddy. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We heard it from Kevin. Kevin is, you know, passing the blame around to everybody. Everyone's got to take it today. And he's right. You know, Ben Johnson's got to stop this vanilla play calling in the third quarter. Dan Campbell's got to do something to light a fire under AG and Ben to fix their issues. It's December. It's time to play good football. It's not time to regress. And today we regressed. You know, on special teams today, the Bears almost returned a ball back. Thank goodness to Jack Fox for saving the day. So all angles of this team was suffering today. Every aspect. Offense, defense, special teams, they all had trouble today. So appreciate the phone call, Kevin. You know, you guys are always more than welcome to call in anytime. Let me jump back into the chat here, see what everyone's saying. Sweat tore us up today, says Lauren McQuaig. Yeah, he had a good day. He was getting a lot of pressure. And Lauren says, true. Why run right into Sweat? The Sweat was moving around, but you know, something else I noticed today too. If you guys remember on the pregame Friday, I said our weak link is going to be right guard. And if I were the Bears, I would rush right up to center or between the center and the right guard. Stay away from Sewell, stay away from Decker, stay away from Jonah. And Sweat did. A couple of plays there, he came right up through that slot and he got in. So, you know, these teams are not stupid. I mean, the offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, they know about these weak sides to any team, the weak links, the guys that, you know, they can typically win their rep on. And I don't know why that they don't do it more often, though, because if it were me, I'd be hitting it all day long. I'd hit that same hole all day with pressure. Of course, you want to disguise it, right? You don't want them to know that you're coming there all the time. Here's a good one by Greg Wagner. Says the offense has become predictable. AG's defense just isn't cutting it. And I think that's the point that, you know, that Kevin was trying to make too, is everyone's got to get a share of the blame. Ben Johnson's probably deserved, you know, more of the blame for today's loss. And this Lions offense can't be turning the ball over. Now, even though they only got points Let me go back and double check that, but I think they only got points off the one turnover. So first half, you had an interception. Bears next drive, they turned it over on downs. And the Lions fumbled it. And the Bears got a touchdown off the fumble. And then the Lions threw an interception on their last drive of the game, and then that ended the game. So thankfully, I mean, the Bears only got 7 points off of one turnover today, that they didn't get more points. But still, that's a 21-13 game. The Bears still win. But this offense has to get going. Mike P says, got to get off. Thanks again, Will. Great show, buddy. Keep up the great job. Well, thanks you, Mike. I appreciate you. And I appreciate everybody. You guys are truly the best part of this channel. You are the only supporters and sponsors of this channel. I haven't really sought, sponsorship or anything yet. And I don't plan to, I don't think this season. And you guys know too, I don't ask you guys to do a bunch of donating and all that good stuff. It's more than welcome, but it's just not something that I'm trying to focus on. But you guys are the best. You're the ones that keep me coming back, keep me doing this every week. And we're going to do it every week all year round. And we're going to keep growing and bringing in some more people. We had Don Greco on, former Detroit Lion, during the summer, and we're going to get some other players on here pretty soon. Definitely, after the season, I'm going to try to get some of the active players on. It's a little bit of gamesmanship with the Detroit Lions PR team and then their agents, and it's kind of a big deal. So I'll do my best to get everybody on as quickly as I can, but we'll see where the show goes. But that's really it for today. You guys have been awesome. I appreciate all the attention to the channel and everything you guys have been doing. So do me one favor. If you're new and you're just now finding us, just take a look and see if you subscribed. We are trying to get our channel to 3,500 by Christmas. I know it's a big ask, but we're trying. If you guys like the content, want to see more, hit that subscribe button, share it to a friend, let another Lions friend know about the channel. That's all we ever ask of people, just to subscribe, and we appreciate it. So before I go, let me look at one more. Chris Mason says, my boss fired me at work. That darn Jared Goff. I know it is all his fault. Well, with that, Chris, we'll end today's show. And hopefully you didn't get fired. And hopefully it's not Jared Goff's fault. But until next time, go in pride. Go Detroit Lions. Take care. Bye-bye.
Wants to throw it to Short. He caught it. He's going on a first down. Oh, yes. The big man. Guys down the 31-yard line. Oh, that is beautiful. Fields looking pressured. Hit from behind. Take it down. Aiden Hutchinson got him.
No respect.
So, we look like we're ready. This is day one.